Hello everyone, me, Runaway with Renee. I have been getting some questions online. I sometimes respond to things about, you'll see these ads where they say, oh, sign up with us and pay so many thousands of dollars every month and, you know, you can come with us. And people think that they're getting a job to travel with these companies from place to place to place, but they're not. They're not getting a job at all. They're, basically it's a company it's sort of like a modern version of a travel agency, I suppose, but except for they're basically bundling you with a few other people who also agree to do this. So I'm not saying it's a scam or something like that. I mean, there are people that are more comfortable that way with somebody else being in charge of their itinerary or feeling like they're in good hands with somebody who understands the visa processes. I really think these kinds of companies are really targeting people who are intimidated by traveling internationally and really aren't sure of themselves or their own abilities. But please listen to me. You're more than capable of doing these things by yourself. You don't need to pay a company thousands and thousands of dollars. And for the rates that you're paying them, obviously it's a business. They're making a huge markup off of each person that they are putting into those programs. And they're able to do that by bundling you together. So if one apartment is costing them effectively $200 to $300 US, but each of you is paying effectively $600 a month US, you can see where that money comes from. So if it's $2,400 versus $300, for example, their cost. So here's the question. Everyone asks, well, Renee, how do you do this? And I've even had people send me really snotty comments like somebody wrote, what did they write? They wrote, well, that's all nice until you run out of money to live on. What the hell does that even mean? I mean, I'm not like independently wealthy. My dad's not like the Monopoly guy or something like that. I actually come from a very poor family. I'm not afraid to say that. I am quite educated, and I've been very lucky in my career, and I also have some additional talents that help me get by. But my ability to travel pretty much consistently throughout the last 6 years internationally has been really based upon my love of travel and me putting that first in my budget. So I'm just going to give you a few tips about how you can start doing more international travel yourself. Just for the naysayers out there, just to start out, you don't have to teach English. I happen to teach English because I love English. I'm also a writer. In my corporate career here in the United States, I am a writer. I love English. Not everyone loves English. Not everyone's meant to be a teacher. That doesn't mean that you can't do this. So if you want me to brainstorm with you about ways that you can do this and you just really can't figure it out, definitely get in touch with me in the comments box. I mean, if this is your dream, why not reach out to someone and try to figure it out? Sometimes Google searches can only get you so far, especially if you have a dream of being in a more remote country. I remember when I moved to Thailand, I thought I had it pretty nailed down from the information that I'd gotten online, but some of these countries have basically a revolving door of regulations that change all of the time, and it's really never what you expect it to be. No matter where you go, it's never going to be what you expect it to be. There's parts that are going to be better, there are parts that are going to be worse, but it's never going to be what you have envisioned in your mind or what you've seen on the internet. It just never works that way. So if you're up for the adventure, here are some things you can do. If you do want to teach English, if you have a corporate career, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to sell everything you own tomorrow and move overseas. Like anything else that works, a lot of prior planning is your best friend. So every time that I've left, so I've done this a few times now where I've lived in the United States, gone abroad, come back, thought, no, I'm gonna crack down on my corporate career. That's the sensible thing to do. And then no, I have what they call I have itchy feet. So my itchy feet do not allow for me to have much of a longevity in my corporate career, not much longevity. So what you can do is do some prior planning. So I would really advise that you set up a budget. Within your budget, show your monthly income every month. I have a template that I use for this, and maybe that's something I can put out there too. I'm sure there are better ones online, but all of your monthly expenses that you know about. So it's going to be your phone, if you have student loans, if you have a car payment, car insurance, all of your utilities, your rent, all of those things. So look at really what's coming in every month and what's leaving. if you look at that money and you start thinking about all the things that you're not going to need when you do move abroad, you can get a good picture of how much money you need to live on. Again, this is all going to depend upon what country you're moving to and such. But the first time I moved abroad, I think I had, I want to say $20,000 cash saved up in my bank account. That is excessive. You do not need that much money. Again, it depends on where you're going. If you're going to a country where they require you to have a full round trip ticket in advance, they require you to, some countries like in China, different parts require 3 to 6 months of your rent up front, and it's not as cheap as you might think. Some places are, if you move to Shanghai, your rent's going to be about $1,000 a month to live in a pretty nice 1-bedroom apartment. So again, depends on what your cost of living is, if you plan on having roommates, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to try to stay away from those conversations as much as I can. They're going to route us away from the point. Your budget, get a good look at your budget. Start thinking of places where you can cut. So if you can realistically, for the last 3 months of your stay within the United States, if you can realistically take the bus to work, when is the soonest you can offload your car? Look at how much you owe on your car. Can you break even on your car now? If you continue to make the payments on your car, are you going to be able to make a significant profit on your car if you pay it off? If you try to sell it now to a private owner, are you going to make more money than you will selling it last minute to a dealership? So you have to weigh out your own situation with any of your debt obligations, like your rent and your car. So other things to consider: if you have a mortgage, obviously selling your house or possibly renting your house out now. This time we'll be renting our house because the housing market is actually up pretty well in the area that we live in, and our mortgage is relatively low. So it makes sense for us to rent the house rather than sell it, and also then we still have a home base back here in the United States. But look at your situation. Look at your situation. Is your lease going to expire? Do you have to renew another 12-month lease? Maybe it makes sense to get out then. If you look at your lease agreement, maybe you have a month-to-month option after your lease expires, and it gives you some flexibility. But get all of this mapped out in front of you, usually on an Excel spreadsheet, so you can see your money in, money out, and so you can see your savings accumulating. This will really help you save for this trip, because you do need to have some savings built up. You don't want to just depart the country with nothing but a hope and a wish in your pocket. That's no way to live. So look at resolving any debts that you can, but prior to leaving, even if that makes you have to wait a little bit longer. Don't be too impatient. So resolve as many debts as you can while you're here. Obviously, I have, I think, like $70,000 of student loans. I'm not going to eke out from underneath those anytime soon. But I know as part of my budget when I'm looking at positions that I need to have a salary that I can afford to pay my U.S. student loans. So again, if you get that into a spreadsheet so you can really look at it and so you can see, I do mine by pay period. So every 2 weeks I have a date across the top, and I can see my money accumulating and how I'm purchasing things. Based upon that, even if you're planning 6 months out, I try to gauge based upon my savings and upon my debt obligation resolution of cars, or of my 6-month car insurance, or my car insurance for my storage while I'm abroad. I try to look at where I will resolve those on a specific time frame. That really helps me visualize my escape plan. So I think that's very important, and that's very helpful. The other thing that I do, even if you just want to go on vacation, maybe you're not trying to move abroad, maybe your dream is to just spend 2 weeks in Italy or something like that, which I do a lot of that now. We do a lot of short trips, week-long, 2-week-long, long weekends in the Caribbean. We do that by looking at our budget, and I use tools like Skyscanner, Opodo, Kayak. I look at some of the cheaper airlines. If you really keep tabs on those sites, you can do, Skyscanner has an everywhere option, and you can see where your the cheapest times to go to specific destinations, or you can use the everywhere option and look at what is really inexpensive to go during a certain time period. So a lot of those online tools are pretty cool, and it can help you find a very cheap flight to book far in advance. Additionally, if you have a place that you really want to go, say you really want to go to Iceland, Iceland is not cheap to go to directly, but so there, and maybe you want to go to France as well. My friends just told me that there's like a promotion running through, and I don't know if it's a promotion or if it's permanent, through the airline for Iceland, where when you fly to France, you can have a free stopover in Reykjavik. How cool is that? How cool is that? So you can fly to Paris through their airline, and then you can stay for a couple days in Iceland on the way back. So you'd be surprised how many cool, innovative ways there are to see a lot of the world. A trip to Paris obviously it's not cheap. You're not going to. You can make it pretty cheap though. I use Abritel and HomeAway. HomeAway is the English-speaking version. We have it now in the United States as well, but that's great for Paris. In different cities, money on hotels, different tools are better for different regions, and that's just the way it works. So I use Booking.com a lot, especially for short notice, and because I know they protect my interests with my credit card information. I've never had any problems with Booking.com. They've honestly even resolved some issues for me that were my own fault and I should have had to pay for. They've actually helped me resolve those with hotels before. So Booking.com is a great resource. Another thing to think about if you want to go to a specific place, you can look at airline hubs. So if you're like, man, I'd really love to go to Glasgow, but every time you look at every single flight, there's a layover in Dublin. There's a reason for that. So look into the round trip from your destination airport to the hub, from your destination to Dublin, in this case. Look into that round trip flight, and then look at what a regional flight is going to cost you from Dublin to your destination, which is, let's say, Glasgow. So I found, for instance, the first time that I went to Scotland, that's why I'm bringing this particular situation up. I really wanted to go to Scotland. I had some friends I wanted to visit. I was looking at round trip tickets to Scotland, which at the time from where I was were about $1,500. I kept saying everything was going through Dublin. So I booked a round trip ticket from where I was in Ohio to Dublin. I found a great deal for $700 round trip. Always search on various days. Don't pigeonhole yourself in. If there's a plus or minus 3 days or a flexible option, so you can, for all you know, 12 hours later on a different flight, you're going to save $500. Airlines are crazy. So look at a lot of different options. These things take time. You have to make sure you're using the tools properly, but get your cheapest flight. I ended up finding a round trip ticket to Dublin for I think just under $700, and then I found a regional flight from Dublin to Glasgow for about $60 US. So total $760 versus $1,500. It was literally half if I focused on the hub and then found a regional flight from there. So. And I don't know why people are so much more comfortable buying a ticket through a major airline that then partners with another airline. Why wouldn't you just do that yourself and save yourself the money? So if you see that your flight's being broken up into fragments every time you search for it, look into what it would cost you to buy those flights separately yourself. Here's another trick. Sometimes, not always, sometimes, and I'm seeing this less now, but I have seen it before. If you can find a direct flight there, then sometimes you buy 2 separate flights back, or you buy the legs of your flight separately. Always look. The round trip might not be cheaper than you buying 2 separate legs. That sounds insane, but sometimes it works that way. So that's a great way to get cheap flights. Once you have your flight, if you buy your flight 7 months in advance, I think it puts you in a good mindset for that trip. So I'm going to Morocco next month, and that's actually turned in with a cheap regional flight and a train ticket. We're actually going to Spain. We're going to Barcelona and also to Carcassonne in France, which I love France. Everybody knows that, but I'm very, very excited about it. So I bought that trip. I think I bought the tickets to Morocco, I want to say maybe about 8 months ago. And for my birthday, I tend to take trips for my birthday. I usually like to go to Paris, but I think I'm a little burnt out on Paris right now. I bought my tickets 8 months in advance. So, and I'm only going for about a week and a half. Great thing about places like Marrakesh, hotels, very nice hotels, are about $40 or $50 a night. that's not cheap, and there are much cheaper ways to travel. If you're young and you like to be in hostels or you're traveling alone, hostels make a lot of sense when you travel alone. When I travel alone, I usually get a hostel. When I travel with another person, it makes sense to get a hotel, because per person it's going to end up costing you about the same amount of money, and there's just more room, more amenities, that sort of thing. So Marrakesh, I believe the hotel we're staying in is called Riyadh Edward. It's beautiful. It's incredible. I think I'm paying less than $50 a night for that hotel. So if you have a credit card and you want to put on your credit card and pay it off, if you have the cash to pay it off, that's a great way to get extra Sky Miles points, that sort of thing. So I do have the Delta Sky Miles card. Whenever I book my travel, I do book it on my credit card. I am very conscious of my consumer debt, though. I don't have any consumer debt. I always pay off my credit card right away. So within the billing cycle, I pay it off. So, and I know somebody's going to comment that that's not the right way to do it for your credit, but my credit's great, so don't worry about that. But I pay it off of my Delta Sky Miles card. That way I get the additional benefit, or I also have an Amazon.com card that gives me like 3% cash back on purchases on Amazon, and I think I get 5% back on Amazon.com and 3% on all other purchases. So if you do have that ability to kind of bank in on some of those Sky Miles or those, some cash back, do it if you have the capital working. If you don't, literally you can book one night at a time in the hotel if you'd like. So when I was younger, this is what I did. So I'd book a trip out very far, like 8 months, and then I would pay for one night at a time in a hostel. So when I went to Dublin, I stayed at Generator Hostel, which at the time was brand new, and it was super nice. So much nicer than any US like high-end hotel. I stayed at it was very nice. Everything was spa-less. It was amazing. But I think I paid about $17 US a night. And I didn't have a lot of free capital at the time. So I'd go online, I'd buy a night at my hotel. A week later, I'd be like, I've got an extra $20, and then I'd pay for a night in my hotel. So I paid for it gradually over time, and you can do that with trains, you can do that with regional flights, you can do that. If it's going to cost you an extra $50 to buy 2 separate legs, but if you buy the first leg, you'll save up and buy the second leg, do it if that's what you love. So those are some good tips for just getting out there and traveling. As far as living abroad goes, I do teach English. Like I said, I love teaching English. I did take the time, and I went and I got my CELTA a couple years ago, and it really sets me apart, and it helps me. I got a passe, just saying, but it does help set me apart, and it helps me and put myself in a good position to finally take a full-time teaching position abroad, which is what I will be doing in April of this year, and I'm very, very excited about it. It's my dream. I'll be 31 by the time that starts. I'm 30 years old. I have always wanted to do this, but I've always been very dedicated to my family. They suck. I've spent most of my time trying to support them and help them, and you can't help everybody. Not everybody wants help. That's just the truth. So I've been, I did my undergrad, I did my master's degree. I was very serious. I still have a very stressful corporate job that I do. I also sing in a band. I love that. But my job, I'm a proposal manager. It's probably the single worst career on the planet. It's probably the worst career there is. Like, I'd honestly rather be a garbage man. I found myself envying the garbage man today. That's not good. So, that was a little bit of a sidebar, but the point is this, my friends. If it's what you love and you keep your focus on it, like traveling has been a hobby for me, really, but I've seen, how many places have I been? I've seen amazing places. I've been to Senegal, I've been to Cote d'Ivoire, I've been to Morocco, France, Czech Republic, Germany, Italy, Hungary. I've been to Italy, Thailand, Cambodia, Canada, obviously, the Dominican Republic, Mexico. I've got to travel throughout a lot of the world, and now I'll be heading to China, and I'll get to do that as well. And it's all been because it was important to me, because I budgeted for it, because I planned for it. And if it's your dream and right now it just feels impossible, and I was there in my early 20s when I was trying to take care of my brothers and sisters, and you feel like you're just tied down and trapped, but your life is wide open. And as long as you make time for the things you love and you keep your focus, you'll be surprised how much more they become part of your life. So really for me, living abroad completely and being a full-time ESL teacher has been a dream that's been about 10 or 12 years in the making. And you can do it. You can do it. Even if you're not 22 and you didn't just leave college and mommy and daddy didn't pay all your bills, like, you can still do it. And a lot of times, I mean, if you don't have an education, you don't have a bachelor's degree, you don't, maybe you don't have the intellectual capacity to teach, maybe you don't have the drive to teach, there are people that, I'm not trying to say that just anybody can move abroad and, oh, it's so simple. It's not simple, and it's not something that everybody can do. But a lot of people hold themselves back and tell themselves they can't do it when in fact they can. So that being said, if you have questions for me, I'll be doing more videos about my move and about my big life changes that are coming up here. I did a video recently about some of the more complex steps of getting your visa to work in China, and if you haven't even budgeted out your trip yet, cross that bridge when you come to it, and come to me if you have questions, and I'll try to help you out. Especially even if I don't know, the cool thing is I have friends all over the world, and a lot of them can really help you navigate the world of being an expat. And to me, travel is everything. To me, seeing the world makes me feel alive. When I sit in an office and I stare at a computer day in and day out, and all I feel is my wrists just aching from just typing like this for 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And just to have some guy get on a call and say, oh, hey, sales guy, great job out there. This was, that was a great proposal, and it was all because of you. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And you have to ask yourself that. And if you love being with your family in your house, in your neighborhood, and you love your job, don't give that up to move abroad. I stay where you are, go on, plan really cool vacations, do that. If you hate your life, you only get one life, and you are going to die. Like, you are going to die. I promise you that. I'm not joking. You will die. And once you realize that, and you think, oh, what's this lady talking about? Everybody knows they're going to die. They don't. Trust me. They don't. And then you have to face it. That's a reality. And this is the only life you get. So if you don't seize your happiness, who is going to? Ask yourself that question. So, starting to get serious on you guys. If you have any questions about traveling or really anything, I'm up to help as much as I can. So happy traveling. I'll be talking to you soon. Goodbye.